Chapter 4 Childhood Echoes. The sky over Seokhwa was washed in a pale, melancholy blue by the time Ji-eun made her way back into the heart of the town. Though the fog had finally begun to lift, a strange heaviness lingered, like the aftertaste of a dream you couldn't quite remember. She walked slowly, letting her thoughts wander as her boots clicked against the cobbled streets. The letter from her mother felt like a living thing in her coat pocket, its weight far heavier than paper. Song Nare, the name echoed like a tolling bell. She hadn't thought of the woman in years, the owner of the coastal cafe with her signature red scarves and unreadable expressions. Ji-eun had always been a little intimidated by her as a child, and even more intrigued. Song Nare had a reputation, a woman who had once belonged to Hanzong City society, only to abandon it all and move to Seokhwa to open a cafe overlooking the cliffs. Some said she was hiding from a broken engagement. Others whispered of scandals too sordid to be spoken aloud. Ji-eun would find her tomorrow. Tonight, she needed something else, something grounding, familiar. She took the longer route home, passing the old elementary school, the library that still had faded posters of reading contests taped to its windows, and the playground where she had once scraped her knees chasing Yoon Sol-ah in the rain. The thought of Sol-ah made her pause. She hadn't seen her since her return, not properly, and if there was one person in this town who still held the kind of sincerity Ji-eun longed for, it was Seola. The Yoon family house was just a few blocks away, perched between the temple steps and the florists. Its cheerful green shutters stood out against the muted palette of the street. Ji-eun hesitated only briefly before climbing the steps and knocking on the door. Moments later, it swung open, revealing a petite woman with short, curled hair and a familiar bright smile. Before Ji-eun could respond, Yoon Sola had thrown her arms around her, laughing through what were unmistakably tears. "Oh my God, I thought I was dreaming when I heard. You're really back. You didn't call, didn't text, just poof, like a ghost showing up after 10 years. Ji-eun blinked at the sudden warmth and sincerity. I was going to come sooner, but things have been... Seokhwa stepped back and waved her inside. "Messy? Yeah, that's Seokhwa. Come in. You look like you need tea and gossip." Inside, the Yoon house hadn't changed at all. The faint scent of lavender and sesame oil lingered, mingling with memories Ji-eun hadn't dared revisit. Seola led her to the small sitting area and plopped down on the floral cushion with the ease of someone who hadn't lost their spark. "You look good. Tired, but good. Still a city girl?" "Still a journalist." "Temporarily local," Ji-eun replied, settling in across from her. "That sounds mysterious," Seokhwa grinned, pouring 2 cups of barley tea. "So, what brings you back? Really, not the polite version." Ji-eun hesitated. The question hung in the air. "My mother." Seora's face softened instantly. She reached over and squeezed Ji-eun's hand. "You still think it wasn't an accident?" "I know it wasn't. And I found something. A letter. From her." Seola's hand tightened around hers. "Do you want help? Because if you're going to stir up old ghosts, you shouldn't do it alone." Ji-eun felt emotion rush up her throat. She hadn't realized how much she needed that offer. "I do." They sat in silence for a moment, the kind that only exists between old friends. Outside, a breeze lifted the chimes hanging near the window, their gentle tinkling a soothing contrast to the storm building in Ji-eun's heart. "Do you remember," Seokhwa said after a while, "when we used to sneak into the old fisherman's house near the docks to tell ghost stories? You used to swear you heard voices coming from the lighthouse." Ji-eun laughed, a real sound that surprised even her. "I wasn't wrong. There were voices, just not the ghost kind." Seokhwa leaned forward, her eyes dancing. "What else have you found?" "A name." Songnare. My mother said she has the rest of the story. Seora blinked. Songnare? The cafe woman? She's odd, always polite, but she keeps to herself. You think she was involved? Not involved, but she knows something, and tomorrow I'm going to find out what. Ji-eun left the Yoon house feeling lighter, not because the weight had disappeared, but because for the first time since she returned, someone had offered to help her carry it. The next morning arrived with a strange calm. The air was crisp, the sky cleared of fog for the first time in days. She made her way down the winding road to Songnare's cafe, a charming old house turned bistro that clung to the cliffs like a stubborn secret. The sign outside, faded but elegant, read Moon and Salt. The scent of fresh bread and roasted coffee met her at the door. Inside, the cafe was warm, with sunlight pouring through gauzy curtains. A few patrons sipped drinks in hushed conversation, while a vintage phonograph played a jazz tune low in the background. And there she was. Songnare stood behind the counter in a deep red scarf, pouring steamed milk with the practiced elegance of someone who had long ago mastered the art of grace. Her eyes met Ji-eun's across the room. Seo Ji-eun, she said, with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. You're your mother's daughter. Ji-eun walked slowly to the counter. You knew her. Nare nodded once. Everyone in Seokhwa knew your mother, but I knew her differently. Come, not here. She led Ji-eun through a narrow hallway and into a private room in the back, filled with books and old maps of the coastline. A kettle sat on a burner in the corner, hissing softly. Nare gestured for her to sit. Tea? Ji-eun shook her head. My mother left me a letter. She said you had the rest. Nare moved slowly, pouring herself a cup before taking the seat opposite Ji-eun. Your mother was brave, braver than anyone realized. She uncovered something that was never meant to see the light of day, and she paid the price. Ji-eun leaned forward. What was it? What did she find? Nare looked down at her tea. Proof that Moon Dae-sung, Hae-jin's father, was involved in laundering money through the fishing cooperatives. He used offshore accounts, fake subsidies. Your mother traced the paper trail, and she was ready to publish it. Was he the man in the locket? Nare blinked. No, that was his younger brother, Moon Kyung-min. He was different. He wanted to expose the corruption. He and your mother were in love. They were going to blow the whistle together, but he disappeared just before she died. Ji-eun's hands curled into fists, and no one spoke up. Some tried. They vanished, lost jobs, families threatened. The Moon family owns more than just land here. They own people. Nare rose and went to a bookshelf, pulling down a leather-bound journal. She handed it to Ji-eun. This belonged to your mother. She left it with me in case anything happened to her. I've kept it safe, but now it's time you read it. Ji-eun opened it slowly. Inside were pages of notes, receipts, coded entries, and observations written in her mother's graceful script. There were names she recognized, others she didn't, and everywhere one symbol kept appearing, a small crescent moon drawn in ink. Nare placed a hand on her shoulder. Be careful, Ji-eun. You've already been seen. What do you mean? There are eyes everywhere in Seokhwa. Some friendly, others not. You stirred the tide when you came back, and now the current is pulling you in. Ji-eun closed the journal and nodded. She had stirred the tide. But this time, she wouldn't drown.